Watching it live as you voted, there was questions about Louisiana Republican Bill Cassidy. He did end up voting in favor, making it along party lines. Are you concerned at all, though, when it gets to a full Senate vote that anyone obviously voting yes in the committee here could change? There could be an upset, or do you think RFK Jr. will be confirmed, sir?
I'm optimistic. That was a big thing that Senator Cassidy decided to vote yes. I'm glad he did. Senators like Senator Warren have been doing an awful lot to destroy this country over the last couple of years with open borders, 40-year high inflation. The fact that they can't listen to the American public who want answers on what is causing this explosion in chronic illness. What's causing autism? That's all Bobby Kennedy wants to explore. Is he realizes that these are problems we have to tackle. I think in his testimony he said 90% of our health care costs are spent on chronic illness. I haven't verified that, but we spend a lot. If we can figure out what the root cause is, that's the way to really reduce federal spending and healthcare spending as well and get far better results. So, again, the fact that Democrats simply aren't willing to find an area of agreement and tackle this together and instead just show such great hostility toward those of us who are trying to solve this problem is just beyond disappointing.
Yeah, it is. It's a little mind-boggling when you look at how much we spend for health care and our lifespan shorter than what they have in Europe. Senator, it looks like there's also some good news coming down the way for Tulsi Gabbard today at 2:30. Senate Intelligence Committee scheduled to vote. Susan Collins, who was a no for Hegseth, is a yes for her. And also just minutes ago, we're learning Indiana Senator Todd Young will also back her. So do you believe Gabbard will get in and will advance to the full Senate floor vote with today's committee vote scheduled at 2:30?
Yeah, that's good news. Susan Collins, I think James Langford also said he's going to vote for her. He's on the committee, and that is good news. What we're finding out is President Trump has selected individuals of intelligence. They are articulate, they're unflappable, and quite honestly, they're willing to fight. And that's exactly what President Trump needs. That's what the American public needs. Government is completely out of control. We have the deep state. It's populated by partisan actors. These people need to be brought under control and working for the American people as opposed for themselves.
There seems to be an interesting outcry on the left. The Democrats are crying over USAID, saying it's the worst thing ever to happen. But you have former Senator, now Secretary of State Marco Rubio, making these comments yesterday, talking about the oversight. It's ignored for years and the waste and abuse. Let's play this.
If you go to mission after mission and embassy after embassy around the world, you will often find that in many cases, USAID is involved in programs that run counter to what we're trying to do in our national strategy with that country or with that region. That cannot continue. USAID is not an independent, non-governmental entity. It is an entity that spends taxpayer dollars, and it needs to spend it, as the statute says, in alignment with the policy directives that they get from the Secretary of State, the National Security Council, and the President. And it's been 20 or 30 years where people have tried to reform it, and it refuses to reform. It refuses to cooperate. When we were in Congress, we couldn't even get answers to basic questions about programs. That will not continue. That's not going to continue.
I mean, you even have a senator threatening to stall State Department issues if USAID is not put back in. I mean, how concerned are you about the spending that's been going on over there with no oversight of Americans' tax dollars?
I'm highly concerned. Of course, Democrats are the party of big government. But remember, USAID is $40 billion out of an entity that is $7,000 billion large, $7 trillion. That's not the only government agency that's out of control, that the bureaucrats in that agency believe they're not accountable to the American public. That's pretty much true across government agencies. That's what President Trump was elected to do, to get control over the federal government, from my standpoint, to shrink its size, scope, cost, and its influence over our lives. We have to return to pre-pandemic spending levels. 2019, we spent $4.4 trillion. We've, for the last 5 years, spent now we're about $7 trillion. We've got to come back to a reasonable pre-pandemic level. No American family would have an illness, borrow $50,000, get well, and then continue to borrow $50,000 and spend at that level. That is insane, but that's exactly what the federal government has done. We need to get the federal government under control. It's completely out of control right now.